You are listening to the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast, where we take an all-in, leave no doubt approach to all things adventure hunting. From the big woods to the high country. How about that? Let's learn together as we discuss with our expert guests on what it takes to be successful in the backcountry. I'm your host, Weston Homa. Let's get into it. Go Hunt has a single purpose: make it easier for hunters to get into the field. Hunting tags are only getting harder to obtain, and Go Hunt is a research platform helping navigate the ins and outs of drawing tags and researching hunts across the West. I've had a Go Hunt membership for years now, and I'm a big fan of the articles written on there by Brady and Trail. The content is next level stuff that has helped me a ton. From animal behavior to archery, they are sharing all the nuggets. I also love the hunt films on YouTube. They are extremely inspirational, and they'll make you want to get out in the mountains ASAP. Check out the Go Hunt Gear Shop, where they have everything you need for this coming hunting season. Use the code RACK, that's R-A-C-K, for 10% off eligible items in the shop. And you can use the code RACK for $50 in-shop credit when you join as an insider. So sign up for a membership and immediately get $50 back toward hunting gear. Check it out, you won't regret it. Mountain Tough produces industry-leading functional fitness programming tested and proven by backcountry hunters and mountain athletes. Mountain Tough's programming allows users to train at home, at the gym, or on the go. These videos are like having a personal trainer right there with you every workout, wherever you are. Guys, I've been rocking the Mountain Tough workouts this past summer. I've been doing the mountain strength workouts as I'm putting on a ton of miles prepping for my 100-mile ultramarathon. This way, I'm going to be totally ready for hunting season once September comes around. There's also so much more video content on the app, including nutrition, yoga, mental health, and one of my personal favorites is the daily mobility. Use code RACK for 1 free month on the app. That's RACK, R-A-C-K, for 1 entire free month to try it out. Give it a look, and let's get Mountain Tough. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Run the Rack Outdoors podcast. This week, I got a very special guest, John Barklow from Sitka Gear. So John Barklow is another one of those guys I've been listening to for years, ever since I first started hunting out in the West about 4 or 5 years ago. John has an incredible background when it comes to what we call modern survival, stemming from his experience in the military, training people in the military up in Alaska, all the big game hunting and adventure he's been doing over the years, and everything he's tied up with now in Sitka. And he is a tremendous resource in the industry. So you can find him a lot as guests on podcasts. And he's been making these videos with Montana Knife Company that have been coming out on YouTube every week. And I think they are awesome. They're like 5 to 10 minutes. And it's just really great nuggets of not just survival tips, like rubbing 2 sticks together to make a fire, but like really good practical tips and advice and scenarios for the backcountry hunter, how to thrive out in the mountains. And yeah, definitely go check those out. So we get all into those. I really appreciate John for hopping on, and I think it was a great conversation. So that's this week's episode. Wanted to mention too, so the Mountain Tough free 1-year subscription giveaway is still going on. I'm just going to do it for 1 more week. Next week's episode, I'll announce the winner. So real quick, you get 1 entry if you leave a rating and review for the show. If you're listening on Spotify, you can just leave a star rating and then comment on the latest episode. If it's on Apple, you can leave the star rating and then review the show there. That way I see your name for the drawing. That's one way to get entered. That's 1x entry. For 10x entries, you can buy a Run the Rack hat. So those are on my Instagram. You can see the reel I just posted. You can check those out. I got 1 in camo and 1 in gray. Call it $25 and I'll get 1 shipped out to you. Yeah, if you shoot me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, I'll get 1 sent out to you. So I appreciate the support. That's 2 ways to get entered to the free 1-year Mountain Tough subscription giveaway, and I'll be announcing that next week. So get entered. Also, at the time of this recording, I am 5 days out from Eastern State's 100-miler. So my first 100-mile ultramarathon, I've been running marathons and ultramarathons just the last few years, really started once I started adventuring out west for these hunts. Running was a great way for me to get in shape, but then I've just stuck to it. I've loved getting better. I've loved just showing up every day. Always dreamed about running 100 miles, and it's finally here. So, a few days out, I just released episode 5 of preparing for a 100-mile ultra on my YouTube. So that kind of walks through my week last week. It's actually not a ton of miles as I'm on my taper, so focusing a little bit more on rest and recovery. But I share some more things that I've been doing to prepare. And yeah, I'm just so stoked for that. So that's on August 9th, running 100 miles, Eastern States 100. Come back, let the body recover. And then I'm leaving at the end of August for high country mule deer in Colorado. Going to hunt that for a good week and a half or so. Spend a couple days just regrouping, and then bounce to Idaho to hunt the elk rut. So beyond stoked. This is all my work vacation for the year. And yeah, I'm just so excited. And then I'll come back and then do all my hunting back east here in Pennsylvania. So that's what's coming down the pipe. And then I got a bunch more guests lined up. So I'm really just excited. Been loving every bit of it. So that's the plan. Let's have another great week, everybody. Let's leave no doubt. Let's work as hard as we can, and let's run the rack. All right, everyone. Enjoy this one with John Barklow. Man, if you're listening to me, you probably know who this guy is. And I hate asking this for every guest, especially when I'm a guest like you on, John. John Barklow from Sitka Gear. John, if you want to give a brief little intro and things like that for maybe the chance of somebody listening here that hasn't heard you, feel free. But dude, I'm stoked to have you on.
Yeah, no. Well, first, thanks, Weston, for the invite. It took a little trial and error to get connected. That was my fault, but yeah, we got to figure it out. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I work for Sitka. I've been there, man. It's past 10, almost 11 years now. I started out as a big game product manager, and then I took over whitetail. So I was doing both of those. And then I took over waterfowl for a short period of time, which luckily I've passed on to another gentleman. So yeah, I've been doing that for 10 years, kind of like trying to build the world's best hunting gear, but also the world's best technical apparel. Really what drives me and motivates me more than that though is educating people and getting them to kind of realize their fullest potential. And where that really stemmed from was the 26 years I spent in the military. Started out as a hard hat diver in the Navy, and then eventually started teaching the SEAL teams how to do combat diving, which through a bizarre set of circumstances landed me in Alaska teaching cold weather warfare and survival. And that's really kind of what people may know me for now. And then I was able to just leverage that into Sitka, and that's been able to help me leverage that into other portions of my my other business life. So yeah, that's super quick in a nutshell, but you're looking at 35, 36 years of experience that I'm just trying to bring to the table to help people with.
For sure. And like I said before I hit record, dude, I've been listening to you for a long time. It was funny when I first reached out to you. I think it was the next day. Then I saw you on Cam Haynes' podcast.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, there's no way he's gonna answer me now. But then I was stoked to get your response and get you on here. And I've been listening to you for a long time, and even that episode with Cam there, it was dude, that's a really good episode. And if you guys are interested in listening more about John's background and everything up in Alaska, he gets into it more there. But this guy has a ton of experience, a great resource. You know, something about that episode too that I really liked that you guys talked about was because I've been hunting the West now. I've been going out the last 5 years, and I've just really loved the whole journey and the process. And there was a part in that episode you talked about with Cam, and I loved it, and it really hit home for me. It was sometimes the mistakes guys make is they see guys like you and Cam, and they want to get, and then they're like, I'm doing that, and that's great, but they think it's 6x6 or nothing. But they're just getting that over the counter tag or whatever. And then when they realize how hard it is, they get discouraged and might, shy away from it. But that's like you said, that's not where you start. And if you fall in love with the journey and the process, And no matter what your first kill is, and like you guys were talking about it, Cam talks about his spike. Dude, so last year I got my first archery elk kill. I was by
Outstanding.
myself. I was by
Wow.
myself in Colorado, over the counter tag, and I shot a cow 4 miles in at 12,000 feet. And you would have thought I killed a 400-inch bull. Like, I will never forget. It kind of sucks not having like antlers to hang up, but I was telling my one buddy, I was like, you bet your ass I printed out like a picture and
Oh
hung that
yeah.
on the wall,
Oh yeah.
just for something, because but that really hit home for me, like when you guys talked about that, and I think that's important for guys to wrap their heads around.
But Weston, that's an amazing accomplishment, right? So by yourself, so there's all kinds of not only the physical but the emotional, the mental head games, right? The logistics, public land at
Yeah,
altitude,
public
12,000
land,
feet
packed it
is
out all by myself.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's no 12,000
Took me
feet
2
is
days.
no yeah, that's not low altitude. 4 miles in maybe doesn't sound too far for some people, but that's because they haven't seen a 500-pound cow elk laying on the ground, and you're scratching your head going, how am I going to process
Oh,
this?
dude. Yeah.
And so that experience, not only did you get to feed yourself and your family, right, and probably still are, but that experience is building the foundation for when that 6x6 or mule deer, whatever it is, steps in front of you, you've got that rep. You understand. You've got that confidence. You're beginning to build that foundation. You've got something to draw from. You're like, okay, I remember, that I was a little nervous, but now I got a better shot routine. I can do this. All that stuff. Like, and the worst thing I think that could happen to anybody is to get discouraged. And so that was basically what we were talking about is there's other ways to go out, have an amazing experience, have a great adventure, actually hunt, find success, and build those reps to win that, once in a lifetime or whatever it is you're chasing, steps in front of you. So that's fantastic, man. Congrats.
Thanks, I appreciate it. And yeah, that's like why I'm like I'm big on, you got to get some kills under your belt too. Like I grew up hunting whitetails, and I got a mule deer before that in the West and stuff. But like, yeah, that's how I looked at it, because now I have the confidence to quarter out an animal, do it all myself, hang it, pack it out, and it's like, yeah, like you said, when I get that 6x6, even if I do have to make one more trip, it'll just be for like the antlers and stuff at that point, which like that's just gonna be whatever. But yeah, dude, I no, I wanted to throw that in there because I appreciated you guys talking about it, because I think obviously I share some content around this. I love it, but social media can kind of make things seem a little bit
Yeah.
easier than they are, or just
Oh
like you
yeah.
just never know what that guy, like in that grip and grin, like what he did for that or something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to communicate those things, but I think that we kind of owe it to each other as a community to like share some of that. It doesn't always have to be the trials and turmoil, but it can't just be this glossed over, yeah, I went out and did this thing, and if you can't do that, then you're somehow, not at the same level of hunting. And I just think that that's not a good way to approach it. This isn't a competitive sport. I think I said that in that podcast as well, but we should compare ourselves against each other in our journey and try not to, because it's difficult, but try not to necessarily compare ourselves to other people.
Yeah, and I just try to focus on, like, I love everything about like a backpack hunt. Like I'm not just, obviously I want to punch a tag, and obviously I want to kill a big bull, but like I've hunted with some guys and I feel like I've seen it here and there before. I've done some solo hunts, but some other guys, it's just like, dude, if you're not like also enjoying just like the mountains, like the adventure, even the struggle a little bit, the um like I was telling the one episode I was talking, I was like, dude, I just love like turning my stove on in the morning, knowing I'm gonna like start sipping coffee and glassing. But it just, yeah, it's like anything, dude. Like loving the process and the journey. I think that's what's gonna eventually get you to the 6x6.
Well, I
Yeah,
think that's what keeps you out there for day after day after day
yeah,
when you haven't heard a bugle, when you haven't seen your target species. I don't want to necessarily like it's a love-hate relationship. I think you have to love it generally speaking, because that's what motivates you to train year round and like spend the money and take the vacation. it's not always fun, and I don't know if we communicate that as much, but I think you really have to like love the process. And there's so much to say a backpack hunt that quite frankly isn't hunting. I mean, there's a lot
Yeah.
of it that isn't, right? It's backpacking. It's living, from a Spartan camp off your back, and so you have to kind of appreciate those things, which is why, again, I preach like go out there, do those things, even if it's right now in the middle of summer, like go out and go fishing at a high lake and hike around and like figure out how you feel at altitude and what you need to survive as far as food and water, even if you don't have a tag this year, but like you're going to get one in a few years. And like that's where you build those reps and that foundation to like have your gear dialed and all those things is just so critical, far beyond the actual like quote sexy stuff of shooting the animal, shooting the bow, like the new gear, whatever that is. So
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to the other thing I mentioned to you before we hit record too was so I told you I've been listening to you for a long time. I remember some older episodes on Kafaru Cast you did with like Aaron Snyder, and I think that's when I remember like I didn't even know what podcasts were. This would have been like around 2019 or 2020. Like I found podcasts because of hunting. Like I
okay.
was gonna go elk hunting for the first time, and it was like my neighbor was like, "You got to check out this guy." It was Aaron Snyder, like this podcast, Kafaru Cast. They'll tell you everything you need to know. And I remember being like, "What's a podcast?" But like that's how I kind of found all that and started learning. And then I remember you coming on as a guest and teaching the things of okay, everybody wants to like practice their elk call, everybody wants to shoot their bow, and like that's all great. But you and Aaron would really do a good job, and this is like what's helped me a lot. Started like back when I was starting out, and I still listen to stuff. I'm always trying to learn and get better, but you guys would talk a lot about like we see people with these like $1,000 GPS in reaches and stuff, and they don't even know how to use them, and god forbid you give them a compass and like they'd be like just spinning around in circles, and they don't even know how to like tie knots or anything. And I can remember being like, okay, I'm gonna take note of all these other things that really like arrowing the animal is only such a small part of the hunt. It's like everything else that leads you to that is like what is also important to practice and learn about. So
Yeah, I call it the care and feeding of the hunter, right? It's can you go out there and just be self-sustaining? Can you take care of yourself? Can you feed yourself, clothe yourself, manage a blister, navigate, get out of the sun, warm up, dry out? All those things are going to get you to the point where you can actually take the shot at the animal, right? And then get it out of the field. So, Aaron is an incredible resource, and he's been promoting this as well, which is go out and gain that experience and really become really more of a backpacker that happens to hunt. And those things will start to blend, right? And like work on your field craft and understand that you can start a fire in inclement weather if you need to. And if you can't, then practice and try different gear and like get to the point where you can do that. That self-sufficiency and that confidence is really again what's going to keep you in the field and kind of grinding, so you can either make that shot and make it accurate and lethal, or it's going to keep you in the field those couple extra days when maybe everybody else is leaving because it's a storm cycle, but you're like, okay, well, it's only going to be 36 hours, and when that storm clears out, those bulls or those bucks are going to be on their feet, and they're like, that's going to be my one opportunity this year. And so that's what those types of things get you to do. Yes, we should focus on our shooting. Yes, you need good gear, but we all use gear as a crutch, but modern gear is awesome, but only to the extent that you know how to use it and that you employ it in the right way. And so all those things have to come together. And that's certainly not, I'm not saying any of this to discourage people. Actually, it should be encouraging because we're all somewhere on our journey and it's all can be enjoyable. And there's sliding scales of success. And I just promote like go out there and start. Like you don't have to have every great piece of gear. Like just go out there and start and do something. And maybe if you don't have everything or know everything, don't go to Alaska for your first trip. But like start somewhere and just go and do, and that will be the fun and the motivation to continue.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this episode first time, maybe you came across the platform because you see John's name on there. I'm from Pennsylvania, and what I did starting out and still do, because I think this is important too, backpacking like is fun. Like I think
Mhm.
if you have a hard time getting yourself to get up and do that in the summer, you're probably going to get your ass kicked on your elk hunt and be a little miserable. But if you're listening from back east, I have spent a lot of time doing little weekend backpack trips, literally just to practice for the gear I'm running out west. And then obviously, like I said, enjoy backpacking. So, and there's places you can go. So like there's a ton of public land, Allegheny National Forest, northern Pennsylvania. I've been to the Adirondacks a couple times. Um, West Virginia has national forests like Dolly Sods, and then I've been to Shenandoah National Park. Um, like there's opportunities just to go backpack, pitch a tent, and practice all these things. And I'm not saying this is like I'm perfect. I'm just like trying to put myself in the mindset of somebody maybe from back east starting out that's thinking like, okay, like what can I do to get ready for September? And it's like these are probably the biggest things that have helped me, honestly, just getting
Yeah,
out there with all the gear. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But Weston, that's exceptional. And when I was living back in Virginia Beach, like I used to go do those things as well. Sometimes they were incorporated into a climbing trip or backcountry skiing and winter camping or whatever it was. But I'm going out next weekend with a buddy just to go backpacking. We're going to backpack to a high lake. I think it's about 7 miles in this mountain range that we've been hunting elk, not necessarily with the intent of scouting, but we're going to go in as I just call it a shakeout,
Yeah, I like
like a
that.
like a
Okay.
shakeout patrol, right? And it's like just making sure that my fitness is there and our gear's dialed in. We're going to go live kind of out of a Spartan camp. We're going to go fish a high lake for trout and like try to feed ourselves just with the trout and all that. We have to be careful of fires just because of the time of year. And just like go immerse ourselves in that environment just to kind of like give ourselves a gut check like, hey, we good, we got everything dialed, September's coming quick. And so I've been doing this a long time and I still go do those things. And one,
Yes,
because I enjoy them, which again is important. But two, because I try not to take anything for granted, and I want to make sure that because it's important to me that I've got all my stuff dialed in. Because I've tried, I've tweaked and tried some different things since last season, and so just making sure it all kind of aligns.
for sure. And I think this leads me into the biggest reason why I wanted to get you on too is some of these videos you've been putting out with Montana Knife, putting them out. I think you're on like episode 20 something now. Like so
Yeah.
dude, I've been loving them and I think these are such great practical, like technical, like practical videos people can watch versus like I said this before we record, like I don't think we need another video of somebody putting up their tent in their backyard and being like, okay, here's my review. Like that's not, I don't think that's very helpful from the guy that's maybe been out in the woods like one weekend. I'm not trying to talk shit, but I think people get my point. These are just really valuable, and that's the point I'm trying to make. So um yeah, these are uh do you have a lot more of these coming, or like how did yeah
Yes. Yes, I do.
okay,
Um, yeah, so I'm good friends with Josh and Brandon over there at MKC, and they're about 3 hours from here, just straight west, right on basically the Idaho border. And but anyways, we started talking last year, end of last hunting season, and they had this idea to kind of grow their YouTube channel, and we were discussing it. And so what I signed up for is I told them I'd build or help them build because they're the ones that film it and edit it. I'm just kind of the talking head, but basically to build 52 videos,
okay,
and they let me basically pick all the topics. And so what we are trying to do is launch those topics when they're seasonally relevant. I've recorded 48 with them so far. So 48 out of the 52. And just because it's the heat of summer, and I've got some really cool ideas that I think they could we're gonna do some really cool stuff for this next winter. So I wanted to keep some of those videos, so to speak, in reserve, and so they're not all like in the peak of summer, because some things are, inclement weather always is entertaining to watch people suffer in.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so the idea is they're going to launch one a week, and I've just had a blast doing it. They're just an exceptional group of people. I think that the guys I work with who film and edit are just outstanding, and so yeah, it's I'm really proud of that work, and it's seemed to have gone over really well.
Yeah. So what I was thinking about doing, I've watched probably most of them. I want to pick a few of maybe my favorites and
Mm.
just kind of like dive into a few of them. Not all 25 or wherever we're at, but just a few of the highlights where I'm like, damn, I've never heard somebody talk about that or whatever. And these range from like all from like gear or like a how to. Well, maybe let me. Okay, I'm going to start with some examples, and then people can kind of get an idea of what these are about. So the first one, this might be my favorite one. You talked about was like the no comms plan,
Mm.
because as soon as I started like watching this, you started talking, I was like, yeah, dude, this happens, and like it can be like stressful. So an example that you gave was like, some like you're with your hunting partner, and ideally you want to say like meet back here at a certain time, or if you don't hear from me by then, and I'll totally let you take this away, but uh yeah, I think it's. And then what to do if you don't have the comms plan. I have a story in my head, but I'll kick it to you first to try to go ahead and unpack that a little bit more, the no comms plan video, and then I'll tell this funny story about when me and my dad were out there.
Yeah, so I think that we kind of rightly so rely on modern communications, right? So
Yeah.
inReaches and cell phones, and maybe even somebody's got a little VHF radio, whatever it is. But I think we rely too heavily on those things sometimes. When you come out west, like there's there's a 50-mile stretch of major freeway here in Montana and Idaho that doesn't even have cell service, right? So for you to assume that you and I are going to separate, I may be go on a stalk and kill a bull down in a deep ravine, that I'm somehow going to have service with you, right? And so then you're worrying about where I am, especially if we're in bear country. I'm worrying about maybe rushing a stalk, say on a mule deer that I blow, because I'm like, oh man, I don't want Weston to worry about me. And I told him, you know, like he's expecting me back at whatever, the Glassy Knob or camp or the trailhead. I've done this with when my wife's dropped me off randomly on the side of the road, like even in Alaska, and I'm just like gone in brown bear country. And I'm like, if I don't get back in time, like she's going to worry and call my friends and the Coast Guard. And so if we just build a no comms plan, which is something that, just it's common sense, but it came from the military. And it's like, hey, when you and I separate, I'm like, Weston, hey, we're going to meet back here at the Glassy Knob, or we're going to meet back at camp, at a certain time. Uh, you know, if I don't make it back tonight, like, don't worry about me till morning because I got my puffy jacket and rain gear. But if so, and I don't make it back, then go ahead and, call the SAR unit or call our buddies or like drive down to the sheriff's office. We can work this out, and it can be very simple. But every time we separate, it's like, all right, man, like we're meeting at that really big bend in the river. We're meeting at the north end of the lake, and like, at noon plus or minus an hour, like whatever, so we don't have to rush. And now if we do have communications, I could text you and say, hey, man, like I'm on a buck. I don't want to leave right now. But if we assume we can communicate and then we can't, that just starts to ruin everything and unravel everything. And so just some basic common sense. It seems common. It's a little bit difficult. I know for me, has been a giant source of frustration. I've been the guy that's been the pain in the ass. I've also been with people who are pain in the ass, like no fault of theirs. And so that's one that I think just I really wanted to talk about and just get people to think about it and work with their hunting partners to figure out their own plan.
Yeah, because as I'm watching that, I don't think people realize like if they gone out they haven't gone out before or whatever. Like, we're just so used to you always know where like everybody's at, like in your day-to-day life. You just shoot them a text or like whatever. But it can happen so fast out there when you're in the timber and like maybe you're walking with your hunting partner and one guy like picks up, smells some elk and starts going this other way, and immediately like you don't see them and you don't have a plan. Like, I don't think we're so wired to always be in communication and like we have nothing to worry about now. That feeling you get immediately is like, oh, well, what do we do now? I don't know where he's going. What am I going to do? And the story like I had, it was the first year I went out there and I was with my dad, and that was a similar situation. Like, I get in the timber, and then like I keep going down, like thermals are rising in this drainage, and like I could smell elk, and I'm going down there. I lose sight of my dad. He's way up at the top of the drainage. Dude, 3 hours later, because I'm moving so slow, I get in on this elk herd, and this one bull was like bugling, but it was all thick, and I couldn't really see him, and I didn't end up getting a shot. And I think that was like day 2 on my first trip, and I just remember thinking like, oh, this is amazing. But I did that whole like stalk, and the whole time, yeah, we had no plan or nothing. And actually, you made a good point there too, because like not only was my dad like, where's my son, I was also thinking like, well, I hope I like kill one of these elk like quickly, because I'm sure he's worried, and that's making
Yep.
me worried. Like, these
Yep.
are things people really don't think about, when literally it could have been before I and this is totally my fault, like before I ran away, I could have been like, hey, I'll meet you right back here at half hour after dark. Like, could have been that easy. That way my mind's clear, like I can chase the elk, my old man can stay up on the glassing knob and like have nothing to worry about. But it ended
Yep.
up being just this whole stressful thing. And of course, when I came back up the hill, he was like, where the hell were you? And I was like, well, I found all these elk, and it was like crazy. And he was like, I had no idea what to do. So it's like but it happened, John, like that fast.
Yep.
Like, and you don't
Oh,
think.
no, it does. It
Yeah.
absolutely happens fast, and because you're coming out from Pennsylvania, like you've spent time and money to get there and vacation days, and that may or may not be, your only opportunity of a trip. And so if you rush it, especially with like mule deer, like if you rush it and like, oh, I'm going to throw the rock finally to get it to stand up because I just got to get out of here because I'm feeling anxious. It's like, man, you've spent all this time and money, and like now 15 minutes because you didn't have a no comms plan, you're going to throw a rock and maybe just have that mule deer blow out of there, as opposed to just sitting on him till he's going to stand up in the evening and you're going to get a calm, clear shot because he's not going to know you're there. And so just those little things. And I like the name of my platform is Knowledge from Storms. And the
Yeah.
whole idea behind that is knowledge from basically wisdom from me making a lot of mistakes, like, and being
Yeah.
with a lot of guys who've made a lot of mistakes. So it's like tried and true. You don't have to agree with it, but it's based on experience, right? It's
Yep.
not. I'm not making this up. And so maybe you can find something in my mistakes and my experiences that can help you. And so that's one that, yeah, I don't know. Maybe other people have talked about it, uh, but I haven't. I don't know if I've heard anybody talk about it. And then you start going into remote areas, or you're in an area that's more wet. So let's say that we separate on a spring bear hunt, and I cross a river or a creek even, and now I come back in the afternoon and the river's up and I can't cross. So now I got to try to find maybe a log to cross because I can't wait across. But then I get anxious because I want to get back to camp, and you don't know where I am.
Yeah. And
So
it's
now I
dark, and
try.
you're tired and hungry and dehydrated.
So
Like,
now I try to cross. And maybe my phone gets wet. Maybe I flood my inReach. Maybe I did hurt myself. Like, and so now all these things start to run through your mind and my mind. And what we're doing is we're not being efficient and we're wasting our time when we should be focusing on hunting. And
yeah.
so that's really all that is trying to just be more efficient in the field with our communications.
You can kind of get in your own head sometimes too. Like, I've had
100%.
times when I kind of took off, rushed myself to get back, or just something like that, and then my hunting partner being like, "Oh, what's up?" And I was like, "Oh man, I thought you were kind of like looking for me or something." And then it's like, I probably could have like stayed in that area a little longer. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
when you can definitely get in your own head. And with
Yep.
the comms plan too on a bigger scale. And again, I'll tell this story because this is another one of my like failures people can learn from. So so it's like this comms plan, but like on a bigger scale. I went out, let me think, a couple years ago, solo to Colorado to scout a unit in August. And then we were going back there, a couple guys in October. But I just wanted to go do like a fun, week solo. And this was like my first, like, all right, I'm going out solo. Like, and it was just like, all right, mom and dad, I'll in reach you. Like, we'll keep in touch. And that was the comms plan. Horrible because I think it was simply that. And I just said like, yeah, I'll just send a message each day. Or something like that. But it wasn't specific. Well, let me think. After day 3, I was in an area and I wanted to go to a different part of the unit. So I spent like 3 days in a tent, did a lot of scouting. I'm like, okay, cool. I got like 3 more days left. I bombed out of there, like drove my truck out, and then I got onto like a major road, and I was like, oh, I got some cell service. And then like I did send my parents an inReach message, but God, they were pissed off because they thought the plan was like every evening and morning or something. And I remember them being like, we were about to call Forest Service. And I'm like, wait, like I'm fine. Like we don't. So it just things like that, getting people on the same page with the comms plan. So last year when I went out hunting just solo, I had a whole piece of paper, put it on my mom's fridge, and I said, this is like my hunt plan. These are the areas I'll probably be. Here's the nearest, Forest Service number, all these things. And I will check in every morning and evening. If I miss one of those windows, like, please don't call, like, search and
Yep.
rescue. Like,
Yep.
give it, like, X amount of time, things like that. And yeah, it went a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's an enormous part of the broader no comms plan, right? Is leaving that plan with your loved ones at home so that if you don't check in, that they're not worried because you didn't check in the morning, or you can say, hey, if I miss, one, like within 24 hours, if I don't contact you, then something's wrong. Or I'm going to be back this day, but if I'm 24 hours late, like don't worry until I'm 24 hours late. And then if I am, here's the trailheads, here's the numbers, it could be calling your friends or a SAR group or the sheriff, whatever. Again, it makes everybody less anxious, and it increases the level of safety, because if and when something happens, that somebody, you at least know, like, oh my gosh, like I impaled myself, I broke a bunch of ribs, I'm in a mile of blowdown hell, nobody's ever going to find me. And you're like, well, if I don't check in 24 hours, the people know, at least to start implementing the SAR plan, right?
Yeah, and that gives you like
And so
some
you can relax a little bit.
security. Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Mhm.
Because things happen out there that you're not always aware of, and a lot of times they're not tragic, but I think they can blow out of proportion faster if people aren't informed.
For sure. Next one I wanted to bring up. I really liked when I saw this one come up, and I started watching it for 2 reasons. Really, was the improvised shelters.
Mm.
One for like when shit hits the fan. Obviously, this is a great skill, but also two, and this is what I've found. The more and more, there's more than one way to hunt the West. You can hunt from the truck. You can hunt wherever. I just like to backpack in far. Does that mean I'm going to get onto more animals? Maybe. It's just what I like. I just like to backpack in. I'm finding like more and more. Sometimes like I'm getting more comfortable, kind of pushing my threshold of like what it takes to get on an animal. So I think you mentioned this in the video too. Like there could be the scenario of you get on an elk herd and you're like, well, I got my tarp, I got my puffy gear, set something up right here. And I think this is a great skill to have for that too. So the improvised shelters, if you want to go down that
Yeah,
hole.
yeah, no. So improvised shelters is just kind of like what it sounds like. It's not your tent, right? It's not a cabin. It's not the hotel. It's, hey, we're at 13,000 feet hunting mule deer, and an August snowstorm rolls in, which happens quite often. Or it could be I broke my ankle or sprained my knee, and I'm going to have to just crawl under this tree and put on my clothes to seek shelter. Maybe I got a space blanket and I've in reach my buddies, but it's going to take them 12 hours to come get me. So that could be your improvised shelter. Or it could be, hey, you know what? Uh, we struck out from camp. We killed a bullet last light. We processed it. We're going to build a fire and just try to build some type of shelter to like weather the storm for the night, and then we'll hike out the meat in the morning when we can see. Or it could be like you said, hey, you know what? I'm 5 miles from my camp, and that could be a fixed camp like your truck. It could be, a spike camp or whatever you set up. I don't want to walk all the way back to then turn around 4 hours later and hike all the way back here. I'm going to sit right here on the animals overnight and be in the perfect position in the morning. And so all those are just opportunities to do these improvised shelters. So it could be space blankets, tarps, it could be lean-tos and A-frames, it could be getting under like a rock overhang, something like that. And understanding that clothing is kind of our first line of defense against the elements and our primary shelter. And so when you have that and you built a technical clothing system, you don't need, depending on your confidence and your skill level, you don't need a lot of extra sometimes to go, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down right here and like wait for daylight. And that ability, again, it relieves some anxiousness from you, but it also increases your capability. It might put you in the perfect position to ambush those elk when they're coming back from uh, feeding all night, or the mule deer moving back into the basin, or whatever it is. It's an opportunity, and you don't need to carry a lot of gear depending on, again, a lot of things: capability, environment, etc.
Yeah, and I just think it's such a deadly tactic because I'm thinking about the first couple years I went out, and it always seemed like when I'd eventually like get on elk, I was hours and hours hike like back to camp, and like I would do it, bomb all the way down a couple thousand feet or like to the creek bottom where we had camp set up or something, and I do remember thinking that like, oh, if I could just spike out up here or just be comfortable doing that, um, yeah, you can be really deadly because I how it is. Like elk are like sometimes in the steepest, nastiest, worst parts ever. You might not want to have like your base camp there, but that's not where you end up finding them. And it's like I think though at the time though, like, and maybe people don't mention this as much, like when you're on a backpack hunt and you're starting out, and like I don't care, like I'll say it, like that's like a mental thing you gotta like if you want to like be okay with. I think guys have. I mean, dude, how many people, you know, they're not comfortable hiking back in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're getting away from those elk 30 minutes before the sun goes down because they're like, we got to get back to camp. And I get that. Like, I've become more comfortable that really just from getting my ass kicked and being like, no, I'm staying till dark on these elk and killing one or mule deer or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, I think that's something guys got to get comfortable with. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. And depending on the terrain, maybe it is the smart move to get down through the cliff band in the daylight before it gets dark. It could be a lot of things. Improvised shelters, going back to that, it could be that you backpacked in, you set your camp in the basin, right at the bottom where the water is. Great place to put camp. But now you can't hunt elk except where you find them. So you find them, and maybe they are several thousand feet higher and several miles from camp. You're like, well, I don't want to carry camp up there, but I also don't want to come back and forth. Not because you're lazy, because it's a management of energy. You only have so much, right? You only have so many resources to keep your energy up. So you're like, I'm going to take my lightweight tarp, I'm going to take my puffy jacket, my clothing, etc., puffy jacket, a foam ground pad, maybe you're inflatable, and I'm just going to go and spike away and put this improvised camp in and just be able to ride it out. And I'm always looking when I'm just from force of habit, even when I'm just even hiking around here, and I'm like, oh man, that'd be a great place if I had to spend the night. Like, oh, I could get
Smart.
out,
Yeah.
and I observe. I'm like, oh, it's snowing right now, but it is completely dry underneath these juniper bushes. And so it's like I just register that in my mind. Not that I'm going to go spend the night maybe under that particular bush, but it gives me the ability to go, oh, if I'm caught out, like that's where I can go. And I get this often. People ask me, hey, I'm above tree line. I'm in the alpine. We're hunting mule deer a lot of times, or maybe it's goats. What do you do? And so outside of, carrying a couple things like a puffy jacket and rain gear, maybe a tarp, but it's like understanding that environment and getting comfortable with it and knowing that, well, I can always bail to just at the very top of the tree line, depending on how far it is, or hey, there's big boulders here, or hey, there's drainages and ravines cut by years and years of snow melt and water runoff, like we can get into those. Like just having that plan so that if and when that storm rolls over the top and catches you by surprise with hail and cold rain and maybe turns to snow, you're not going to panic. And
Yeah.
that you're like, okay, we need to look, but I've already identified some areas. I know what I'm looking for in this particular environment to kind of seek that shelter. So I think those are important things. Just one more thing, because shelter is your number one survival priority, like it has to always be front of mind, I think, to manage the risk.
I think that's smart. Something I want to be more cognizant of for sure. I have a high country mule deer tag in Colorado. That's going to be my first half September, and then an Idaho elk tag, and I'm going to bomb over there second half September. So most of all my work vacation is September this year, which I'm stoked. But it's things like that I want to, like, I'm always trying to, like, every year, like at the end of every trip every year, like I take a bunch of notes and like lessons learned, and then I have like things I want to work on, you know, maybe while I'm out there and just be cognizant of. And that's one thing. I mean, I'll do it where I'm not at risk, and I'll let my hunting partner definitely communicate that too. But if I have an opportunity to like do an improvised shelter, again at low risk, and it's going to help me get on an animal at first thing in the morning, I might even like go out of my way to do it this year, as long as I can
Yeah.
communicate that and everything, because
Hmm.
and I'm comfortable enough, doing something like that now. But I want to become more comfortable with that on the off chance, like, down the road, or maybe even later in the trip this year, I really need to do that. And I just want that, dude. It's like anything, like to get that confidence, like you gotta kind of just do it.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
no way around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as long as I've been doing it, it's still good for me to go out there and do it and just refine things and like just kind of immerse yourself in that again. That's kind of what I plan on doing this next weekend. All those things when they're planned, or it's much better to have done it then, because when you are forced to do it, maybe maybe you're forced because of the weather, maybe you're forced because of some physical illness, maybe you're quote forced because that is going to be the perfect play in the morning. You're not as hesitant to do it, and you're safer when you do. And so to me, that's just kind of building and enhancing your field craft. So sometimes, yeah, you do have to go out of your way to go, you know what, I'm doing this. But it's also something you can put in your quiver to say, I have this and I know I can do it. And if the opportunity presents itself, I'm going to employ that on this deer hunt.
Yeah. And you can even pull this back to like any example. Like we're talking, like you mentioned that, and my mind also went to, like, I remember years ago I did a backpacking trip, 3 days down in West Virginia by myself to run all my gear. I could have, because it must have been over Labor Day weekend. Yeah. And I originally thought, like, oh, I'll come home Sunday. And I remember Sunday night there was like a big storm, and that's where my mind went. Like, oh, I'll just come home Sunday. But then I was like, wait a minute, I think this would be really good practice to just weather out a storm. So I'm gonna come home
Good for
Monday
you.
morning.
Yep.
Yeah, because I've heard this guy Aaron Snyder and talked to John Barklow about high country mule deer, and apparently it storms in Colorado up there all the time, which I found that is true. So this was like years ago, and I did that, and tried to be a huge storm rolled in. But I was like, I wrote it out. It gave me the confidence that my tent was gonna hold up.
Mm-hmm.
Had to think quickly because the storm rolled in. I was like, okay, I don't want to be down in the bottom where all this runoff's going to be and like all those things. And then when I went out, and hunted mule deer, I'm trying to think. I was up there, I guess maybe like 2 years after that. That's when I did that solo trip out there in the high country in August. And it's kind of around like the Gunnison area. And sure enough, yeah, storm rolled in like almost every
Oh
night.
yeah.
But,
Oh yeah.
It's like, we're going to be good. We're going to be okay. Because yeah, man, it's just so easy to see people doing like all this badass, awesome shit and like pushing the limits on YouTube and Instagram. And it's great. Like I love it. Like I'm not talking shit on it, but like if you want to go out there and do that, like it's not like you got to have some reps. I don't know, because it's scary the first time. Like
it's uncomfortable almost always.
Yeah. For sure. So next one here. I don't know if I have a good question here, but I think it can open up some good dialogue, because the one video you did on med kits, and this was something I have not heard. And I obviously I listen to all the podcasts. I got some books back here about elk hunting, mule deer. Steve Ranella has a really good book on like kind of backcountry survival stuff. And this is something I feel like I haven't heard, but when you talk about med kits, you made a point that med kits are specific. They're to be used on you, like your med kits to be used on you. And I remember, and then you said, because there's situations where, like, say early in the hunt, John, me and you were out there, I cut my leg, and what we don't want to do is you come over, use your med kit to like clean me up, patch me up, like whatever. And then maybe I go kill a mule deer. I pack that thing out, and then you cut yourself, but you're down in resources in your med kit. And I thought like, oh, I never would have thought of that, because how easy would it be as like, just men wanting to feel helpful and capable of like, oh, here, I got my kit, I got it, here you go. And you start using your own stuff. And really that's, not a good way to do it.
Yeah. So I say that for two reasons. The first is that is a very common practice in the military. It's basically standard operating procedure, because for the reasons you stated, if you get hurt, I don't want to treat you with your kit because I could get hurt 5 minutes from now. And so if somebody comes up to me, they can treat me with my med kit, right? So it's just kind of covering our bases of safety. Also, your med kit may have things in there that you need specifically for you. So maybe you're allergic to sulfa. Maybe you have a certain pain med. Maybe you have an EpiPen because you have allergic reactions. I'm not going to carry an EpiPen for you. You need to have the EpiPen for you. So if all of a sudden you step on a ground nest of bees or wasps and you get stung and your throat starts to close up, you better have your med kit on you. I need to know where it is, and there better be an EpiPen in there if that's what you need. Secondly, it also, and this is the as big a point, is that you will have groups of people, hunting partners, where and sometimes it's me, or certainly in the past, where it's like, John always carries the med kit. Yeah, I don't need to carry the med kit and burden myself with the extra 8 ounces because John always has a med kit. Hey, John, I got a blister. Can I take care of this? Hey, John, I got a cut. Can I take care of this? Hey, John, I got and John's like, you know what?
I hate that guy.
Yeah. Right. So it's like, hey, dude, you carry your own med kit. Hey, dude, you carry your own survival kit. Right. And so then we can build, hopefully, like if you and I are partners and we've been hunting for a while, like maybe we go take a med class together. So our capabilities are on par with each other. Now, if you're a doctor and I'm not going to med school so I can get on par with you, but you may carry more in your med kit. So you may carry sutures, you may carry tourniquets, but if I'm not comfortable with that, I might not either. So we need to build our med kits really for our capabilities, not what we want our capabilities to be. So if I don't, if I'm not comfortable, if I don't have the skills to like put in airways, I shouldn't be carrying an airway because I'm probably going to cause more problems, right? But if I'm rifle hunting with you and we're concerned, hey, there's a possibility because we are around firearms that one of us could get shot, even not from necessarily each other, but maybe other people out in the unit. I was bow hunting in Colorado, I don't know, maybe four years ago. I don't remember the unit, 52 or whatever. It was a small unit. We're archery hunting for elk, but at the same time, there was a muzzleloader firearm season for mule deer, and we had a great experience and killed a bull. And I got out of there, me and my buddy, and within that day, a day or two, uh, an archery hunter got killed by a muzzleloader hunter.
I remember that story when it came out.
Yeah.
Are you saying that was
So
around you? Like that
that
was in
was in
that
the
unit?
same
Wow.
unit.
Yeah.
I don't think it happened when we were there, but it had to be a day or two after we left. But my point of that is, like, if you are firearm hunting, it's like, okay, there's a possibility of gunshot wounds. Maybe we should have some skills and carry some things to manage a gunshot wound. Hunters in general, broadheads, knives, we're processing animals, we're splitting firewood. Like, we get cut a lot. People stab themselves by mistake. People slash their partner when they're skinning out an animal by mistake, right? Uh, there was, it was like, it seemed like in one fall season, 3 guys that I knew, one guy stabbed himself in the calf with a broadhead, really bad, had to be carried out with a tourniquet on his leg. One guy almost completely cut through his Achilles tendon with a broadhead that fell out of a quiver. And another guy was on his final stroke with his Havalon of taking the elk hide off and jammed it right into his thigh all the way, full deep. And just by the grace of God, did not cut his femoral artery. I've had my own run-ins, cutting myself severely and all kinds of craziness just from all my years of instructing. But my point to that is these things happen. It's super cheap insurance to have a med kit. Everybody should have one. Build it to your capabilities. Make sure it's got some customization for your particular needs and wants, and just carry the damn thing and make it a non-negotiable.
Yeah. Again, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I dump mine out every year. I go over things to make sure nothing's expired. I try to do some sort of YouTube where I reread like parts of that. There's medkit sections in some like the books I have back here. I remember, what did I do this past year? It was like California Fish and Game had like a med wilderness first aid course like on YouTube, and I'm like,
Yep.
okay, prior to me going out there, like I'm just gonna like watch like one of these videos like before. I just try to like same thing with the land nav, which I thank you and Aaron again for that one too. Years ago, listening to you guys talk about that. Like Aaron's huge on like the land nav stuff, and like I told Aaron when we recorded, like I am like the guy you're talking to. Like I'd hear that, and I'm like, like wilderness schools near me, Pittsburgh. Sure enough, there was a really good course. Guy was in the military for a long time, and I took a land nav course here, and that stuff. Me and Aaron talked about it too on our episode. Yeah, you have to refresh yourself on these things.
Yeah, they're perishable skills.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just took the refresher for my CPR and wilderness first aid in May, I think, this year, right?
That's awesome to hear you say that.
I've had
Yeah.
EMT multiple times, wilderness first responder multiple times, been through military tactical combat casualty care for bleeds and gunshots and explosive injuries. And I still, because it's a perishable skill and I'm not a doc or a medic, like I still feel the need to take those things and just refresh and make sure nothing's changed. And because if something happens, that's not the time to break out the book and try to figure it out. And I'm not saying I would be the best to respond to some tragic medical injury, but I at least try to stack the odds in my favor. So when it happens, I'm not completely kind of starting from scratch. Right. And so those are the things that, again, they build confidence in you. They allow you to push the limits a little more. I like to say, it's a question of not if, but when something happens. A lot of times it's how you manage the situation that kind of, decides if it's going to be, tragic or just, a great story at some point to tell. Obviously, understanding we can't control everything, but you at least want to do some things to mitigate risks. And so med kits are like a super easy way to do that.
For sure. I think I don't want to ask this one. I mean, like you've clearly, like you talked to a lot of people that are into the backpack hunting, going out west for the first time. Maybe there's people that keep in touch with from Ohio that gone out for the first time. Like all these things. What's like maybe one of the bigger things after guys going out there first time come back and they're just like, John, I got my ass kicked in like this aspect of the hunt. Or we got spun around. I wish I would have done more land nav or does anything like that come to mind? Like the first time
Yeah.
coming back,
Oh,
lessons
yeah.
learned,
Oh,
most
yeah.
popular.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the first thing is that people, they overestimate their abilities. So when you're flying Google Earth or you're on Onyx or Spartan Forge and you're dropping a bunch of pins, that I mean, we all get caught up in it. And so I think we overestimate our abilities. And so when you get out there and you're standing at the trailhead and you're looking at the mountains 5 miles in the distance that you want to go on the other side of, that it can be completely overwhelming. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, drop that pin there or go over that mountain, but because you can be overwhelmed, I like to say you have to figure out mentally, emotionally, like how to eat the elephant in small bites. So that combined with altitude, like you said, you went to 12,000 feet, like good on you. A lot of people can't do that right away. Matter of fact, I would say the majority of people can't do that right away. Like I know if I go above 10, I need to slow my pace. I need to factor that in my planning and I need to hydrate more. Like that's what I need to do. And so what I tell people is, okay, you're going to go to Colorado, you're going to go on that elk hunt. You've got a pin 5 miles from the map. Don't feel the obligation or think that you're going to be able to put on your ruck, which is probably heavier than it needs to be. Well, it's heavier than you want it to be, but it's probably what it needs to be for your experience level at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't feel the need to like put it on and get to camp in one day. Like drive to Denver, fly to Denver, spend the night at 5,000 feet, get a good night's rest, even in a hotel, whatever. Now drive to the trailhead at 9,000 feet, camp. Guess what? You can find amazing hunting probably within a mile of the trailhead because everybody's walking past that, right? So, like, get out, shake out, start to acclimatize, understand the weather, start to process the scale of the terrain and what you're going to do, and maybe you find some, maybe you find some success around the trailhead, or maybe just sitting there like some old timer comes down and says, yeah, well, if you're looking for elk, like just go up this drainage over here 3 miles away, right? And then put on that ruck and go, instead of 5 miles to that first pin, maybe you go halfway and maybe cut the altitude in half and the distance in half, and then set up camp there or in a likely spot that looks good. Like, oh, this looks better in person than it did at Onyx. And then 3 days after arriving, you get to your pin on the other side of the mountain. But oftentimes, I think you'll find you never get there because you get distracted and find other places that are just
Yeah.
as good or not better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so all those things, it's like factoring in the altitude, trying not to push your pace just because you wrote it down on a route plan or in your mind, like I'm going to go from here to here to here to here, doesn't mean you have to do that. And so don't try to not overestimate your, rates of travel, your physical fitness, all those types of things until you get that experience and understand like the time I need to acclimate, the food I need, the hydration, like what my fitness level is in reality, not the gym, not at the track, right? Not doing the stairs in the stadium, but like actually going out and hiking the trail or maybe off trail even, at some type of altitude with a full load on my back. It's like, okay, and just kind of keep things manageable. I think you'll have a better experience. I don't necessarily think you'll be any less successful by any means. And you may find what I call these soft zones where I get to a trailhead and there's all these horse trailers, and maybe they're from outfitters, maybe they're not. And I'm like, well, dude, I can't out hike horses. And a lot of outfitters have fixed camps. So I'm going to go 2 miles from the trailhead if I want to backpack in. Like, what does backpacking mean? It just means hiking around with stuff on your back, right? There's no distance involved. I could be 2 miles from the trailhead and find amazing hunting because everybody rode past that to their fixed camp, right? Or I get there and there's a bunch of like dirt bikes and side by sides. So they're buzzing around the trailhead, but then they're also going 5 miles in to do whatever. And it's like, well, maybe right in the middle is where those animals get pushed from pressure. So just trying to, and I'm saying this out loud so I hear myself because can get caught up in this. It's like, take a deep breath, calm down, don't overestimate your abilities, and just kind of play it by ear when you get there. Like, the best laid plans, right? What does Tyson say? Everybody thinks they're a good fighter or whatever till they get punched in the mouth, right? And so it's like, go out there and just try to be flexible and be adaptable and try not to overdo it, especially when you're learning.
I think that a lot of that comes from just like a stress management perspective, and the idea of like people have these expectations, like we're going to pull into the trailhead at this time. We're going to be at camp at this time. And like, yeah, oh my God, me too. And then when they start, hiking around and get their ass kicked, turns that like get discouraged, start to panic a little bit because, things are just taking longer. But there's really like, if you can just kind of like be like, okay, this is going to take longer. It's a little harder than I thought. Shift your expectations. I think that can be like a big help. But I am like the worst person to give advice from this because I've heard, and it's amazing advice. Like drive out there, spend a night, get acclimated, all those things. I'm not trying to sound like something I'm not or something. I consistently year after year drive straight through the night and hike up the trailhead sometimes in the dark just because I get so excited and I can't help it. But I think no, that everything you're saying is great advice. I just for some reason, when I get above, I think that is usually above 10. That's when I start to feel it. I suck wind like when you get up to 11, 5, 12, 100%. But luckily, I've never really been sick. I'm a little bit lucky in that regard. I mean, I try to obviously stay in really good shape. We kind of just connected, but I'm big in like the running endurance world, like ultras. I'm actually running a 100-miler here in like 2 weeks.
Wow.
I know. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thanks. I'm excited, but that's you don't have to do that, but that's an extreme. I think that increasing your VO2 max, that's got to be helping me a little bit. But
absolutely,
when I first started going 5 years ago, I wasn't doing all that endurance stuff. But still, then I don't know. I've never really gotten sick, and I've been with guys in camp. Just last year on a hunt, we got up to 10. I mean, like you can just see it in their face. They're like, I just can't eat, man. I think I'm good on dinner. I think I'm just gonna snack on this.
Yep.
An hour later, we're just sitting there talking, and like everybody's having fun, Actually, what we did was like, you know what? We actually took head of your advice. There's 4 of us, 2 guys. It was the first time sucking wind. We wanted to get up closer to 12. We got above 10. Having a tough time, slowing down, starting to get dark. And me and the other guy I was with, who's older than me, he's been going out west. He's from northern PA, the past like 15, 20 years, ton of experience. So he knew right away too, like, hey, all good. We'll kind of stay back here in the timber. Maybe we can glass up into the basin. Don't worry about it, guys. We'll post up. But no, then the one dude, like I'm saying, lost his appetite. We're sitting around setting up camp, and he's just like, yeah, I got to sit down. I'm like, no, I'm good. I just want to sit down. Sure enough, an hour later, he's going behind his tent and just throwing up a little bit. And it's crazy how that can happen. And the dude, super fit. Like I showed up when I saw him, that was the first time I met him because he was friends with my buddy. I was like, oh, we're like, these guys are ready. Like we're good to go. But sometimes it can affect people, whether they're they got some of the fitness or not. So I don't know what it is.
Through no fault of their own. Some people are more predisposed to it. I got a buddy. It's almost a guarantee. Like above 10, if he doesn't manage himself, and like we collectively slow down, like he's going to have issues. And he had a really bad issue years ago on Mount Whitney. Yeah, I don't know, him and 3 other guys maybe over the course of my career, like I've had to help get out of the mountains, like really bad pulmonary edema, cerebral edema, like,
Bad.
you know, the standard kind of like hangover symptoms kind of clear up. But some people, like, I don't really suffer. Like I can go 12, 13,000. Yeah, I'm going to be sucking wind. I got to slow my pace. I have to hydrate more. My
Yep.
heart's going to beat in my temples the first night in camp, but like I generally get over it. Other people don't. But that's my point is like you need to figure it out, and it's not directly tied to fitness. And sometimes the younger, fitter people can get themselves into trouble because they're like timing themselves on the trail. Like, you know, if you're running,
Yeah.
right, you know, your split times and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're like, man, I'm falling behind. And it's like,
Right.
no, you just have to adapt to the environment.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's tough for me to do too. But you know, people will say, I don't know how you guys do it. It's so difficult out there. Like, you know, it's so steep and all this. And we were talking before we got on air. It's like when you live out here and you can hike these trails and go to altitude all year, that definitely helps. But if you're not used to it, then you just have to figure out how to manage yourself. And this is like what I call the care and feeding again of the hunter. And there's no right or wrong. And like I I I know that people may not envision in their mind like camped out hunting elk 2 miles from the trailhead, but I can tell you for a fact, and you know because of the cow elk scenario, killing a 700, 800 pound bull elk and having to process that and carry it back 2 miles feels like 20. Okay, so
I felt like I was running another ultra. Like that's
I
actually where
would
I
tell
put
you within
myself.
3 miles of a trailhead is about, for most people, like that is about as far as you're going to want to carry a bull out on you know, even with you and a buddy.
Mhm.
So if you're going to go farther, then that just is where, okay, we're going to go 7 miles in. We're going to follow John's advice. We're going to take 2 or 3 days to get there, whatever. Great. What are you going to do when you kill the bull? Yep, we have packers lined up, or we have llamas we're going to rent, or whatever it is. And it's like, and all these things is what you just need to start to figure out. And this is where the experience comes from. You know, if you go hunt mule deer, it's not as big a deal to get out as an elk, right? If you go antelope hunting, it's not a big deal at all to get that out. So it's kind of a crawl, walk, run. And you know, platforms like this are fantastic because they just make people aware of things maybe they haven't thought about. Because I just don't want people to feel discouraged and like quit hunting and go back to playing golf. It's like just consider it a journey, and wherever you are on your journey, you can have an amazing experience. And people like you or me or Aaron, like we're going to be able to help people get a little farther along on that journey a little quicker, but like just enjoy every bit of it because it's all fun. Like it's all fun.
Yeah, and appreciate the kind words there. I wouldn't dare lump myself in your guys' crowd yet, but I'm just in this like chapter early, and I think I can like maybe relate to the new guy in different
Yeah.
ways a little bit. And I'm obviously first to tell all my mistakes, and that's where you learn. And real quick with the guy that did get the altitude sick, I have to give him kudos though, because what we did was okay, that was the first night, and then we still had one more day before season started anyway. Um, and I was talking to my experienced friend who wasn't sick, and I was like, we were like, okay, it's not like we're going to be on a glassing knob at first light up there now anyway. We still have a couple hour hike at a minimum. Let's just get up, let these guys sleep. Good night's sleep. Obviously, they're acclimating more, and we're kind of missing the morning glass anyway. We'll try to glass from here when we get up if we can. And then, you got like the days are long. So I was like, what we think would be a couple hour hike for me and him, dude, we'll just take most of the day. Like we're good. We got time. So to make that last 1,500 feet, we took the better part of the day. And then now we're set up in camp. We didn't really lose much. Like now we're in the basin the day before the season starts. And yeah, so I'm giving the guy credit because like I love this dude. He bounced back. He just had a great attitude, which I'm a true believer in. Like that can help your sickness more than anything.
Yep.
We made sure to like keep him hydrated and everything, and trying to eat some real food. And dude, that evening glass before the season, we started picking out some deer. I bombed over to the next basin, and I glassed up a herd of elk. And actually, I was with him. And then when I came back to him, he had saw a ram. We're like up at 12,000 feet, like
Awesome.
50 yards from him.
Awesome.
And this was his first time up in the mountains. And I was like, no, you did. Like, no way. And he was like, dude, I swear it was crazy. And then, so that night, like we're going back to camp, and he's just like, dude, this is like amazing. I'm having, so much fun. And then like, we didn't even start the hunt yet, but it could have been he just had that good attitude of like, all right, like, cause he was really thrown up the night before. But I think some people can get in their own head like that. Like,
oh yeah.
Oh,
well, especially if
I
you
can't
don't know
do
why.
it. I'm altitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know why. But he stayed calm and took the next day one day at a time. And then, dude, he was good.
Yeah.
Rest of the hunt, really, like he stuck it out. So
yeah,
I think
that's
attitude
great.
is huge.
I mean, he acclimated. He had the right attitude. He had good friends that were like not going to shit all over him, and so that's fantastic. I would say the last thing I would say that I see kind of common mistake is that people think that they've got to go for like 10 days. And I tell you what, like maybe 10 days with travel, but 10 days in the field is an incredibly long time. It's a heavier pack. It's a lot of mental games. It's a lot of grinding it out and suffering, especially if you're not seeing animals. And so if you want to go out there, if you have that type of vacation, something to do is say, well, you know what? I'm going to take a pack with 2 or 3 days of food, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to go into this area and see if I can even see any animals.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to hunt 2-3 days, come out. And then I'm going to go this area 2-3 days or come out, or just go for 4 or 5, because 7 days, 9 days, 14 days, like that is a long, long, long freaking time. And it can be very discouraging. And so it's okay. I guess what I'm saying is like, they should feel it's okay to like, you know what, I'm going to go 3-4 days. I'm going to come back to my camper. I'm going to go 3-4 more days. I'm going to come back to my camper. And then if you find the elk and you're kind of getting into your rhythm, you're like, nope, I'm all in now. Like I found them. I'm all in. I'm taking everything I got. I'm going in for the rest of the trip. Check, Roger. Like that's perfect. But I think we all have these like preconceived notions that I think we've all kind of not on purpose, but like applied to each other, where like we feel like if we're not miles from the trailhead and in for 10 days, like we're not somehow living up to our manhood. And it's like, no, man, you got to be smart about this and understand it. And it's not just experience. That's just like playing to the rhythm of the hunt and the environment and like where you are and trying to like manage it as smartly as possible.
I think that's such good advice, and I wish I could grab my younger self and scream that
Me too.
to him, because dude, I get it. Like I was like so fired up to get out west, start hunting that first year or two. Hey, if this freaking Aaron Snyder guy can go out for 14 days solo, like I'm doing that, and that's like it's that or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, those first 2 years, like I went, like we go. I remember that second year it was my dad and I for 11 days, and we did not move. Had over-the-counter rifle tags in Colorado. Of course, got our asses kicked. I got on some elk, had a couple like close encounters and everything, but dude, that's a long time. And I don't know if I think most people you go out there with, like you spend that much time with one person, like quote losing at something. Like we had some nights towards the end where we get into it, and it's like, man, that's like such good advice, especially early on. Not to say that like I still like there's levels to this, is what I'm saying. Like the 14-day mule deer hunt, like I haven't done 14, but like I've worked up to be more comfortable with the 10-day high country way back in hunt. I'm just saying early on, that's some good advice to cause think, dude, like I want to grab myself and be like, dude, get over yourself. What do you think? That first spot you're going to go into, Colorado, over the counter, do it yourself, public land, that first spot's going to be loaded with elk. You should probably be coming out and moving after 3 days anyway. Like they're not all just running around like in an area that you've never been to before. Like
Yep.
this shit is hard.
Yep.
So that's just good advice all around.
Well, let's use a different example. Let's use you as an example. Is that 100-mile trail run the first trail run you've ever done? Is that the first race you've ever done? Did you have to work
there's
up
levels.
to that?
100%.
It's the exact same thing. Does that mean you're not a runner or like achieving your performance objectives to do a 5K, then a 10K, then a half, then a full, then a 50K, then a 50 miler, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so when you think about it in that context, well, of course that's what you would do. Well, it's
such a good correlation.
It's the same thing that we're talking about here, right? And that's where you, along the way, like you're figuring out your shoes and your hydration and like what you can eat and your pacing and all that. It's the same thing with the backcountry hunter. What you're going to carry, what you're going to eat, how you're going to care for yourself, how you're going to treat blisters. What mental games do you have to play with yourself to keep grinding, right? So it's all the same type of thing we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's been a big driver of me with my platform, just because I've seen so many just life lessons with the backcountry hunting and the commonalities, but I've been making with not just the endurance, but just life in general and dealing with adversity and getting better at things and I love it. Like a big part of my platform too is just kind of like the growth of becoming a hunter and stuff. And I love it all, dude.
I actually think it's the bigger part of it. I mean, of course, we're having these grand adventures and we get to experience and interact with wildlife and, hopefully kill some animals and have great food to eat. But man, the emotional, the spiritual journey that you go on and how that literally you bring that home. Like I am a better person. I am a better husband. I am a better brother. I'm a better coworker. Right. And we don't talk about that enough, but anything that's like challenging like that has such a bigger beneficial part to do with your life going forward than when you're actually there like suffering and like can't figure it out and like frustrated you can't find any animals and
and it's the whole journey. And people, that's why I get so angry sometimes when I see the people that are just in it for the 6x6 grip and grin. And I've talked about this on episodes before, but it's like, dude, I want that
and
like,
you'll
just
get
like
it.
everybody else.
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it because you're doing it right. But
but like if that's your intentions, like all the time, 100%, you don't give a shit about any of these things me and John were just talking about in the last 5 minutes. Like I think you're missing it, and I kind of feel sorry for those people because it's like, dude, I don't know.
And a lot of times, if you don't get those deeper connections, you're not going to stick with it because what we're talking about, even the running, but like everything we're talking about, like they're just difficult. They're difficult, which is part of the appeal.
It's too hard to not love the whole.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with running. I've seen guys that are just like, I just want to run 100 miles, but they've never done really anything with it. I'm like, go ahead and try to just go do it and grind it out, and then don't be surprised when you get your ass kicked. I don't know.
Yep.
But hey, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I don't want to take up any more of your time, John. I really appreciate you coming on. I'll try to wrap it up here, but where can people find your content? We talked about these Montana knife videos on YouTube that are great. Just anything else, John Barklow. Are you still doing the newsletter, Knowledge from Storms?
No, so I stopped the newsletter, and I'll tell you why. I've committed to finishing my book. I literally just got done this morning with my fourth edit. I'm looking for a publisher. I submitted one. I submitted some stuff to a publisher in New York. I'm going to self-publish no matter what.
Well, congrats, man. That's awesome.
This has actually been one of my big adult goals is to get this done. I've been working on it a long time. So I stopped the newsletter, but I have a website, knowledgefromstorms.com.
Okay.
There's like 100 and some articles on there. I got some videos. I have a YouTube channel by the same name. My Instagram is at @Barklow. I've got 2 courses with outdoor class. So backcountry mission planning and survival for the modern hunter. I've got on outdoor class. I'm actually working on my 3rd course right now. We're going to film it in October. And then, of course, the Montana Knife Company videos. And then I've done a bunch of things. If you search my name with Sitka, like I've done some really cool videos and some things with them. The latest one was at rewarming drill we did in the lab, the Gore Comfort Chamber, which was really cool with Adam Foss. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there I've done, and really it's just about trying to give back and help people, because I just realized that I've been so blessed to live in this unique crucible my entire adult life, and it really kind of achieved my childhood dreams that I just want to help other people kind of achieve theirs. So,
Dude, I love it. Everybody listening, go check all that stuff out. Dude, I can't thank you enough for not just hopping on here, but all the content and stuff you put out. I've given examples here. Like, it's helped me so much. And Hunting the West, these adventures have done so much for me. And like, you've definitely been a good guide through all that. So I appreciate everything you do. And
well,
let me keep me posted on that book. Like, as soon as I see a pre-order or something, like, I'm all over it.
Well, yeah, I appreciate the kind words, because I need the encouragement sometimes to keep doing it. But I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So I'm glad people are getting something out of it.
Awesome. Perfect, man. All right, I'll let you go. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Go check out everything John Barklow's got going on, and we will catch you on the next one. So, all right, man. Take care.
Thanks, Weston.
All right. Hey, if you liked that episode, please share it with a friend, share it on your story, and give the podcast a rating and a review on wherever you listen. For more of this type of content, you can head over to the YouTube channel and follow along on all the social platforms. Really appreciate it. See you on the mountain.